Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. It is that time of the quarter. It is my first quarter unhaul, and some of these books I have never talked about on YouTube. Some of them are books I had lent out to Kim, and I got them back, and they're ready to go to the library. Other books I have talked about, and so it's a mix. It's a mix of secular and Christian. It's a mix of genres, and it's all just going to be however I grab them. That's how we're going to talk about them. So, first up would be the Hope Mountain trilogy by Mary Keneally. I am unhauling all three books. They have beautiful covers. Unfortunately, the content doesn't work for me. So, those are in the box. Next up is Trial and Error by Robert Whitlow. This was from the library itself. This is Christian legal fiction. It was okay. It's, I don't reread, so it needs to be passed on. Next up is Edge of Dusk by Colleen Coble. This is book 2 in the Annie Peterson trilogy. I very much enjoyed this trilogy, and Thomas Nelson does not tell me what book number it is. No, I believe this is actually the first book in the series. This is excellent Christian romantic suspense. Pick up the series. You won't be disappointed. It is fast-paced. It is suspenseful. The romance is believable and isn't based on trauma. And I love the way Colleen writes. So, easy recommendation. Next up is a spare copy of The Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley. I do not need more than one copy of this, so I'm passing on my quote-unquote spare copy. I'm loading up the box as we go through the list. Next up would be The Lady in Residence by Allison Pittman. Right? Yeah. As you all know, I didn't like this book, so away it goes. Away it goes. Next up would be The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. It is grim, dark fantasy and didn't work for me. Doesn't mean it won't work for you. Just didn't work for me. And a lot of the Booktube community loves this book. So if you can handle torture and your reading, pick this one up. Oop, hang on. Okay, next up is Fatal Mistake by Susan Sleeman. This won a 2x2x2 reading challenge. I will link that video down below. I DNF'd it. Book didn't work for me. Another one of those Christian romantic suspense in which they fall in love during trauma, and I just can't handle that. Next up would be Lost by Gregory Maguire. Well, I loved Wicked. DNF this one. There were just too many words. Can't say anything else. There were just too many words. Broken Hearts Bakery by Carla Lorano. This is book number 1 in the Haven Ridge series. It is a good contemporary romance. It is not a Christian contemporary romance, however. There were some important passages in here. but it wasn't, I don't read again, so I'm going to pass it on. Next up is Daughter of Eden by Jill Eileen Smith. This was part of my birthday book haul. I enjoyed this one. It was my first no, it was not. It's my second Jill Eileen Smith book, and it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. It was better than middle of the road, but it wasn't fantastic. Next up is Letter from Briarton Park by Sarah E. Ladd. This is a historical mystery romance. It is the first in the Houses of Yorkshire series. This is secular, but it is faith, and I would have no trouble classifying this as Christian fiction. I highly recommend this one. I highly, highly recommend this one. It was so enjoyable. I am looking forward to her books that are on my shelf. Next up are DNFs. First DNF birthday haul book would be Digging Up Daisy by Sherry Lynn. This is the first in the mainly murder mystery series, and don't waste your time. Next up would be The Lady of Galway Manor by Jennifer Dybel. As you know, I recently DNF'd this one in March. Yeah, don't need to talk about that again. And then A Solitude of Wolverines by Alice Henderson. This was just nonsense. This was nonsense masquerading as suspense. Nonsense suspense. That's what it was. It was nonsense suspense. Okay. Then is The All-American by Susie Finkbeiner. This was okay. Wasn't anything special. It could have been a lot better than it was. This was very middle of the road. I expected more. But I love the cover. But in this case, the story let down the cover. So, okay. That box is reasonably full. Hang on, let's rearrange that book up there. It'll fit better as my stomach growls. Always nice. Okay. Now, mass market paperback time. So, first up is Capital Conspiracy by William Bernhardt. I somehow ended up with 2 copies of this book. I have not read either copy yet, so one of those copies is a hardback. I'm going to donate the mass market paperback to the library and pass it on. Next is 6 Sweets Under by Sarah Fox. This is a cozy mystery. It is the first in the True Confections mystery series. This was a birthday haul, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy Sarah Fox's writing in general, so this was, a very easy recommendation. Next up is Death on Tap by Ellie Alexander. This is the first in the Sloane Krause mystery series. This is also a cozy mystery. Birthday haul. Loved it. Will continue the series. Next up are several books I haven't talked about on YouTube. First would be the first book in the Discworld series. That is The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. Thoroughly enjoyable. Next up is Mayhem at the Orient Express by Kylie Logan. This is the first book in the League of Literary Ladies. Yes, mystery series. I loved this book. This was a fantastic, enjoyable, cozy mystery. I loved every word of it. Next 2 are by Charlene Harris. The first is Living Dead in Dallas and Dead and Gone. Didn't enjoy either one of these. I am happy to unhold them. won't be a sad day in my life. Next up is Last But Not Leashed by Eileen Brady. This is I want to say it's the second, maybe the first book in the Dr. Kate Vet Mystery series. I thoroughly loved this book. I love this series. I love the characters. I love the setting. I love the animals. The fact that I love this book really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. If I tell you the title, you'd be like, yeah, Tammy will read that and like it. So, next up was a vast disappointment when I read it. That is The Vanished Bride by, wrote this, Bella Ellis. This is the first book in the Bronte Sisters mystery series. There are 3 books in the series. I am not continuing it. It was so disappointing and so convoluted a mystery that it was a miserable read. It was a miserable read. Next up was a Goodreads giveaway several years ago. Pretty sure there was a blog post on this. That is Eliza Starts a Rumor by Jane L. Rosen. And did not expect to love this book. I really, really did not expect to love this book. I'll read you the back. 4 women, one tiny lie, and the big repercussions that ignite them all in this charming, page-turning novel. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. When Eliza Hunt created the Hudson Valley Ladies Bulletin Board 15 years ago, she was happily entrenched in her picture-perfect suburban life with her husband and twin preschoolers. Now, with an empty nest and a crippling case of agoraphobia, the once fun hobby has become her lifeline. So when a rival parenting firm threatens the site's existence, she doesn't think twice before fabricating a salacious rumor to spark things up a bit. It doesn't take long before that spark becomes a flame. Across town, new mom and site devotee Olivia York is thrown into a tailspin by what she reads on a bulletin board. Allison Lee is making cyber friends with a woman who isn't quite who she says she is. And Amanda Cole, Eliza's childhood friend, may just hold the key to unearthing why Eliza can't step out her front door. In all this chaos, one thing is for sure. Hudson Valley will never be the same. Funny, romantic, raw, and hopeful, this is a story about a woman and the healing power of sisterhood. Honestly, I expected to hate this. I expected to DNF it, and instead, I fell in love with Jane's writing. I fell in love with the story. I was blown away by how much I truly, truly enjoyed this book. I have absolutely no problem recommending this book. So the next 2 are by Catherine Addison. They are both fantasy. And for some reason, I don't see them talked about a lot. And I think that is, because both these books are different. So the first one is The Goblin Emperor. This is a series. I will tell you that this is a very slow, methodical story. It is political in nature, not real world politics, but it's political in nature in the story. And there isn't a lot of action and adventure in this story. This is for lack of a better description, this is thinking fantasy. And I loved this book. I loved this book. There are 2 more books in the series so far, and those have not lived up to The Goblin Emperor for me. But this one was truly fabulous. So the second Catherine Addison book is The Angel of the Crows. This is very different. This is much more action-packed. And it is Victorian England. And I don't want to spoil anything because this is one of those ones you should go into knowing next to nothing. But it is much more action-filled than The Goblin Emperor. This is, for lack of a better description, action fantasy. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved this book. To the best of my knowledge, there is no follow-up to it. I wish there were because I loved it that much. It's sort of loosely based on Sherlock Holmes and yeah. No, wait. This isn't the one with Sherlock Holmes. This is the Jack the Ripper. Loosely based on Jack the Ripper. So, those are the Catherine Addison books. I have no qualms recommending both of those books for very different audiences and very different reading experiences. So, next up are 3 Joanne Flukes, Plum Pudding Murder, Christmas Cake Murder, and Coconut Layer Cake Murder, which I don't appear to have read. Have I read this? Okay, I'm not unhauling this one. I haven't read it. I have read these 2, however, so these 2 will go. Okay, so that leaves 6 books and 7 books. And they're getting on hold because I purchased new matching copies of the entire series, so the old books need to go. So the first book to go would be New Spring. This is the prequel novel to Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time, obviously. And then book 2 is The Great Hunt. Book 3 is The Dragon Reborn. And apparently it got puppied. Unusual for my books. And then the last 3, I'm actually sort of glad I'm doing this because it let me know where I was in the series. So I have read through book 3. So I am on book 4, and that is Shadow Rising. And book 5 is The Fires of Heaven. And book 6 is Lord of Chaos. So I got the whole set last year. Dave's like, they all match, pick them up. So I did. So those are ready to go. And yeah, I think I'm going to add one more. Hang on. Okay, so I was on the fence, but I'm going to do it. I'm not going to reread them, so they might as well find home with someone that will. As you know, last year I read the Risen Kingdom series and absolutely loved it. So book 1 is An Alchemy of Mask and Murders. Book 2 is A Labyrinth of Scions and Sorcery. And book 3 is The Last Uncharted Sky. I highly, highly recommend this trilogy. It is absolutely fabulous. It is on the edge of swashbuckler fantasy, flintlock fantasy. It is a protagonist that sues for peace. That is her focus in life. It isn't battle driven. It's politics and it's exploration and it's questing and it's an absolutely fabulous series. I highly, highly recommend it. So that would be the first quarter of 2023 book unhauls. Or 2024. What am I talking about? So, what have you unhauled this year? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.